Hi guys, I'm so glad to have you guys back. Today is going to be a little bit different. I am working, of course, with Daphnes Diary Magazines, but we are actually following Louisa Hensel's video. I watched her and she was kind of building up her stash, and she kind of does a variety of different things for her journals. So I figured we would do that. And this is a great way for me to use up my old ones. As you can see, I have 3 of the newer ones, but I do also have 3 older ones where I've already used the covers for journals. So we are going to be harvesting mostly out of these just to kind of get some more use out of them. So like I said, a lot of them, I've already cut stuff out. I've already pulled out a lot of pages. So I'm just kind of using up this and, kind of following along with her tutorial on how to use up magazines to make ephemera or any other little items for your journals. So let's get started. And as you can see here, I'm just using a scrap envelope just to kind of write out a few things. And then, like I said, I straight out copied what Louisa did. She did tags, tickets, fussy cuts, envelopes, and a snippet roll. So it's kind of the same thing that I'm doing here. So as you can see, I'm kind of leafing through them. And I do have this little tag. What is it? Like a little template that I made. I don't exactly follow it, but I do just use it for a guideline as far as sizing. So I don't actually go in there and use this as an actual template. It's just more of a guideline. That way, if I can look at it and kind of know, okay, I can, a tag will fit in this size for a large one or a small one. And it's just for like a very, very general guideline, just so I can see if it fits in there. And that's how I kind of use. I have some for tickets as well that I just use so that I know if I have enough magazine page for it to work. Or like an image like this specifically. I'm like, will it fit in here? How much of the picture will it fit to make a tag? So that's basically what I do. And then I did want to show you guys this cutting tool. I think it's Slice or Splice. I got on Amazon. It works really well. It works similar to an X-Acto knife, just without the danger of cutting yourself. And I'm not even sure what the blade is made out of. It almost looks like it's plastic, to be honest, but it hasn't become dull. And I'd say I've had about 2 years, 2 to 3 years. So I highly recommend if you can find it on Amazon. And as I'm looking through the magazines here and I find any pages, for instance, that little old couple, that image for the tag, any pages that I rip out, I do keep the rest that I'm going to use for the snippet roll. So anything that I'm finding that I, can use off of that page, I do try to use as much as I can from one page. Just because I feel like I am like the biggest fan of Daphnes Diary magazines. So I feel like it's gold, so every possible piece of page that I can use, I will use. So for instance here, I do use this remaining space right here, pieces that I can use for tags. And then there's that little butterfly, and I like the Chinese, organ clock, if I'm not mistaken. What is it on there? And then I just kind of make sure that those fit in there, and it's how many tickets can I get out of this? So I go ahead and try to use as much, and then whatever I have left over from that, I am going to use for the snippet roll. So I do use every bit of the magazine as I can. and as I'm going through the magazine, I am trying to kind of go in order. So I am trying to collect all my tickets. All my tags first, and then ticket or whatever. But as I'm going, if I do find something that catches my eye, like I've cut out a few things that are for fussy cutting, or if I saw for the ticket that I already pulled off a page, then I go ahead and put that aside. But I do generally try to work in order, kind of focusing one thing at a time. That way I kind of don't lose focus of what I'm trying to do. And that way I can kind of keep track of how much I've gathered for each category. Just because I do like having things made ahead of time, but I don't like harvesting this specific magazine fully. I do like to still have pieces that way. Because I don't know about you guys, but sometimes when I make things, I'll make a whole bunch of stuff ahead of time, and then as it turns out, I don't like using it, and then I'm like, oh, I wish I would have left this another way, and I could have used it another way. So I don't try to harvest everything fully. I just like to have, some pre-made stuff that I can pick from. But also, if I'm looking for something specific and I'm leafing through the magazine, I could have used something for a snippet roll, but I've already used it for a tag, or vice versa, and that way I can have the option to still leaf through my magazine, but at the same time, I've already made some stuff that I can use, whenever I'm ready to use it. So now that I've collected enough for tickets, I'm kind of moving on to looking for the decorative pages that I can use for envelopes. So I am just kind of looking through and see what I find that has pretty designs, or like a full page image that I can use, like that. I think that's meant to be the coloring page. I really like this pottery page too, so I figured I could make a small envelope out of it as well. So like I said, now it's just I'm kind of looking through that and see what I can use to make the envelopes. And apparently, just like that, I jumped into the fussy cutting. So now I am just looking for things that I can fussy cut. And again, I'm very particular about the fussy cutting from Daphnes Diary Images. I do just kind of look at stuff. I'm like, okay, let me see what else I can add. But again, I'm very particular, and I do like saving certain images for when I'm using and I want to leaf through it. But here I am just kind of looking, and I'm like, okay, what really sticks out? I see, for instance, that I thought I could make to an envelope. And it's just because every time I look at it, sometimes I'll be looking, I'm like, oh, you know what would be nice? Let me see if I can find some florals or something that I can fussy cut. And then there might have been a really cool picture on the back, but I would get more use out of the flowers the art that they include. So it's hard to decide which side of the page I want to use. So by me fussy cutting a lot of things ahead of time, I've limited myself to only being able to use that specific fussy cut versus leaving the page whole and then deciding when I go to use it, which side I want to use. Which is why I don't always fussy cut everything out of my Daphnes Diary Magazine. If it's other magazines, like what is like Simple, whatever the Simple magazine is, or like Martha Stewart Living, or whatever other magazines that I use, or Woman's Day or whatever, those I do harvest fully because I don't want the extra magazine laying around. I go in there, I find all the pictures that I like, cut it out, and then either put them into categories, or I go ahead and make a stash of ephemera or whatever I may be using it for. And then whatever pages I have that are still solid, I leave together in a like bounded still as a magazine, and I use that to basically background to where I'm rubbing my glue stick, so that I don't get the glue stick all over the back. I want to say for gluing, but I feel like I'm implying that I'm using it for a glue book, which I'm not. I'm just kind of using it as scrap paper so that the glue residue gets on that versus getting on, whatever project I'm working on. And now I'm just cutting out my tags here. With the tags, I don't, like I said, I'm not following that guideline that I had, as the template. I'm just kind of cutting them up. On this specific image, I did want to kind of have that bird's head off to the side because you end up punching a hole for the tag, and I don't want to punch his head out. So I just kind of cut off until it was off centered. And then, like I said, I just make rectangles and I make sure that they're even, and I move on to the next piece, and then I cut off my little triangles. And with the triangles, I see a lot of people cut one triangle, and I even tried it on this video. I don't know why I did, but I see people cut one corner and then flip it around like mirror image and then use that as a template to cut the other corner. But they're so tiny that they always fall, and my corners are always end up being crooked anyways. So I just find that's one of those tedious things that annoys me. So I just cut one side, and you'll see me switch. I just start cutting them off like I normally do. Cut one corner, eyeball it, and look at the other side. I'm like, okay, close enough. And if it looks a little off, then I cut a little more, which I'm sure if I folded it in half and I made sure that it was even, they'd be off. But I don't particularly care. I'm not doing it to sell. And even if I decide to send one in, Happy Mail or whatever, I mean, it's my art. I'm sending it as it is. So if somebody doesn't like it, oh well, it was something I sent for free. So like I said, if it was for selling, maybe I'd have specific templates. But because it's mine, it's my art, I'm free to do what I want with it. I just eyeball it. And I'm not decorating them. I'm kind of just showing here that the back, still obviously the back of the magazine page. So I'm not like decorating them. I'm just kind of having them, be pre-made so I don't punch out the hole. So I just basically want to have that availability of having the sizing already. So whenever it's time to go pick one, I can back it. And then the nice thing about having it sort of semi-made is that if I am working in a journal that's, I don't know, that page is mostly blues and I find an image, I can back it with a blue piece of paper on the back and have it match whatever page of a journal I'm working on. So, which is why I like it, I have that base made, but I haven't finished it, and I can finish it later and just kind of, go from there. So that's the beauty of that. And then these are going to be all the tickets. So these I am just kind of cutting roughly to about the length from the template, because when I did that template, I had that template sort of more or less about the size of 3 tickets. So I do kind of follow that guideline. And most of my tickets I do about 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 inches if I do the bigger ones. And then when I fold them, honestly, I'm not even sure how long that strip is. I just eyeballed it to, I'm like, okay, yeah, this looks about 3 tickets. I'm sure it's not the actual correct size if you were to buy a roll of real tickets. But I just kind of looked at it. I'm like, okay, yeah, that looks about the size of 3 tickets. And then I fold them, just because when you fold them, it does give them that more realistic look. And you'll see in a minute, I'll fold all these pieces of paper and then punch, use a regular hole punch to cut obviously the holes that mimic the tear rip of the tickets, which makes them look a lot more realistic. And basically the only rule that I have for myself when I'm making these tickets is if they're the smaller tickets, I punch, obviously the corners out and then 1 hole in the middle, because these are more like what I like to call jumbo tickets for myself. I cut out 3 holes in the middle, just so that obviously if you go to try to tear 1 hole, it's going to tear the ticket improperly. And then I am kind of just showing here that if you use some, ink to kind of go over the edges, it just adds so much just to that simple plain ticket, to where it looks so much cuter. But like I said, this is just a really a preference. And like these are the smaller ones. Like I said, I kind of have these calculated more or less to about 3. So literally fold it into a tri-fold, and then go to punch my holes. And these, because they're smaller, I make 2 punches on each corner and then 1 in the center. And then when you go to open it, it's like bam, look how cute those are. And just I kind of follow the same process. And like I said, if they're a little bigger, then I do 3 hole punches in the center, the 2 corner ones, as you can see, corner. And then this one, I believe, is still small enough to where we could get away with 1 hole. And obviously the edge ones, I do always go back and punch the 2 tickets if I didn't get them. Sometimes when you fold them, like not all the corners get punched properly. But like I said, these are just so easy to make, and they're so cute, and they add so much interest to your journals. And look at this, I just have this huge stash now, and these are just from a few pages that I went in there and I cut some strips out. So next, the envelopes, which honestly, I can't say I have a favorite. I guess the least favorite is the fussy cutting, because it's just fussy cutting. But I love the way the envelopes came out, so I'm actually very thrilled. And I'm gonna be working on my fall journal, so I picked out some colors that were fall themed. Obviously you can pick anything, but picking these beautiful yellows and rich warm colors. And these I did do this sheet and another one half. I cut straight in half, and then I'm using it to make some smaller envelopes. The other ones kind of vary in size. It just depends on what image I was able to use or basically salvage out of that page. But these are very simple, and I do use fabric tack just because it doesn't wrinkle the paper and it's quick drying. On these, one of the side which is the side that was stuck to the book, when I tore out, left that tear side on it, so I'm leaving it as it is because it's beautiful. I love the way torn paper looks. So I use that as the outside part of, I believe these are coin envelopes if I'm not mistaken, the style, where you fold in this into the center, and then obviously fold up the bottom to seal the bottom, and then fold down for a flap. And then when I do this, like I said, I fold up the bottom. And then you can either glue all those layers together and fold it up, or you can do like I'm doing here. I do take out that extra layer just because I don't want to waste glue, sealing the first flap and then closing it this way, just because fabric tack is like $15 for that bottle. So I'm just a cheapskate, honestly. So I don't want to use unnecessary glue when I don't have to. And like I said, I use the fabric tack because it's just quick drying. I don't have to worry about it going all over the place. I love this glue, honestly. It's my favorite. Just it smells very strong. And it's expensive. And then I feel like you end up wasting so much because it always goops up and when it starts to dry. But anyways, it's kind of the same process for all these envelopes. I did the exact same style for all of them. It's just different sizes because it's, obviously based on the sizing of the paper. And then this on the top, I did just want to quickly say that I do cut out, and then that bottom part I do glue down just because it reinforces that entrance. So whenever you go to stick things in there, you're not, it's not going to open as easily and it's not going to tear. And then I always cut it a little, right here, you'll see I do cut it a little more narrow to where you can't really see it when the flap is down. It just kind of does a peekaboo effect when you open that flap. And then on this one, I don't know why I decided to glue the bottom, like just seal it instead of folding it up. I honestly, I think it's the only one I did it because I'm like, no, I like the fold up effect better. But that's another option. If you find that too many steps for the other one, you can glue it at the bottom. I kind of left it in the video just because it still shows you another option to glue it. However, I still do the top the same. Like I said, I fold that part and glue it down just as a reinforcement. But, in case you want this option, you do have it as well. cool thing about these envelopes too is that that bottom piece, the one that gets folded underneath, is that could be crooked. If you cut it, it's not straight, who cares? If you tore it and don't like the torn edge, you could leave it as it is. It doesn't matter because you're not gonna see it. On this one, I did show you, just again for variety, I did glue it, seal it first, and then fold up the flap. Again, it's just extra glue. I didn't do it. But again, it's another nice thing about these envelopes, that, if something isn't perfect, it still works out very well. And this one's just a little taller, so it's still a little narrow, but it's taller, so something else that's a different size could fit in these. And then I did want to mention, with this particular envelope, as you can see, this one side where you fold in, it's a little more unfinished because of the different images on there. There was a part where there was writing, whereas the other side, it looks like a pattern. On this side, it's kind of messy all over the place. So for this one, what I did is that I reversed it. So instead of folding the flap on the same side where the seam is, because usually that's my favorite part, I did it in the other way. That way, if I want to use it and glue it into a journal, I can glue the back part, and bye-bye ugly side, like nobody knows. Nobody's a wiser. Or if you still like that folded side, what you can do is you can decorate the other side and kind of cover it, and you still have the beautiful back. But my plan is, most likely I will glue the other side down to a journal, or even do a part where it will cover, like do a pocket. Just glue 3 sides and have a secret pocket as well. And it's funny because this is just a paper that I kind of thought, I'm like, maybe this will be cute. But this actually turns out to be my favorite envelope. I end up tearing the 3 sides of it and inking it. And just like I said, I love the way torn paper looks. I don't know what it is. I don't even know at what point I got into the torn look of pages. But it is my favorite. Actually, I lied. You only need to tear 2 sides, because that one underneath, it won't matter. But it was, I don't even know what project these little weird diamond thingies were supposed to be for. But it's very nautical, so I thought, I'm like, maybe it'll be for like a summer journal. I don't know. But I thought it was very cute. And see, on this one, I am leaving it, and I am sealing the bottom, like I said, that I normally don't like to. But I did do it for this one because the extra layering of it gives it more like grungy effect on it. And it's almost like, because this paper is so light, that the inking almost looks like it was burned. And because it was torn, it almost has that effect that it was burned. And it has that like sort of raw, unfinished edge that I love so much. And this one's pretty self-explanatory. It's fuzzy cutting. I mean, there's not much more to than for me, when I fuzzy cut, I am very particular as far as like how I cut around an image. And normally I use my little baby scissors, but I couldn't find them. And I have 2 pairs, but scissors always tend to get lost. I don't know. They're like bobby pins and hair ties. They always disappear. But anyways, I do always cut. I keep in mind what design is around what I'm fuzzy cutting because I do keep it. Again, I feel like these pages are gold, so I do try to salvage as much as I can from every single page. And because I was doing the snippet rules, I was kind of like this whole background of this specific page. It's beautiful. It has that sort of like layering of sort of collaging in the back or maybe watercolor effect, and then that white print that I have no idea what it's called for that specific design. But anyways, I keep as much as I can so that I can use it for my snippet roll. And again, this is just something that I generally do. I honestly, I feel like this might be like a crafter's problem. Like we all keep as much as we can, because I swear the moment you throw something out, you need it for the next project, and you get so mad at yourself for like throwing it out, and then you're like, why did I throw it out? I knew I shouldn't have thrown it out. I knew I was going to use it at some point, but then you don't want to become a hoarder, which that's happened. And there's been lots of times where I've cleaned out my stash and I got rid of a whole bunch of papers, and the next project, I swear it's like in the crafter's like journal of punishment or something. It happens every time. So I keep all the little pieces, and I try to, I carefully analyze each piece of paper, as stupid as it sounds, just to make sure that I'm like, okay, what can I save out of this page? Do I need anything? Do I want to keep anything? And I make piles and end up with all these little boxes full of different size scraps that I can use later. So it's just, again, I feel like I'm not the only one with this problem. I may be, but I feel like it's impossible for me to be the only one with this issue. But if you do have it, please tell me. I want to know that I'm not the only crazy one out here. I did want to mention that on certain things, I don't fussy cut really closely. Like on the hamburger, that little flag, I didn't fussy cut that little flag all the way just because I don't want it to get damaged, because it will. And then things like this little watercolor and brush little image, I'll use it and I will cut each brush, the little brush and the pin out, but I won't do it till it's time for me to use it. And that is just so that I don't lose the pin and the brush, because I will. So I like to keep it together, and it'll keep it from bending as well. So when you have really tiny pieces, especially if they kind of go, there's multiple images, I do kind of cut it in a cluster, and then when it's time for me to use it, I go and I cut each individual little piece. I just sort of, did half the work by kind of cutting around it, kind of keeping them together. But like I said, I go back and I do all the detail stuff just so that I don't lose pieces. And actually, I lied. This snippet roll is my favorite thing. And like looking now, I'm like, the paper that I used, those sheets, or that piece right here that I cut into strips, had really pretty coloring on there. I should have used a different one, but whatever. But literally, it doesn't matter what pieces you use for the base. It doesn't matter if they're crooked. It doesn't matter if one's thinner than the other one, if it's an ugly image, if it's a pretty image. Actually, don't waste the pretty image. But I mean, it doesn't matter. The only thing I could sort of suggest is that when you go to glue each piece, maybe sort of keep it a little straight so that you don't end up with a C or an S, from all the, like the way that the paper winds. But other than that, it doesn't matter. Like I said, it doesn't matter how skinny or fat or ugly it is. Just glue a strip together as long as you want to do your snippet roll. And then I like the torn look, so I go in and all the pieces that I saved, I go in here and I rip all my pieces. And I make sure that at least one of the side long ways is torn. And then I try to remember to tear out like the edges, but if it's not, you can't really tell once it's all on there because there's so much so much going on that you can't tell if everything isn't torn. Just make sure one side is torn long ways. And then these, I didn't mean to, but they all have this sort of gray, greenish, muted color. And I ended up sort of doing this sort of green theme. And so what I do is again, it's the same fabric tack. You can use regular glue for this, but again, it's going to warp the paper. So I suggest fabric tack. And it's permanent glue, so it'll work out well. So what I do is I do just start off with one piece and like I glue maybe 4 or 5 inches at a time. I pour glue and I just basically added enough glue to where it's not going to dry so quickly. And then I tear, and it doesn't matter if you accidentally tear one piece that's shorter. Just make sure this looks cuter if you leave the part that's torn longwise exposed. And if one side isn't torn, just cover it with the next piece. And I just layer like as you see, and I'm just making sure that they overlap. And it looks weird now, but the more you do it, like the cuter this roll gets. So I actually do, when I was doing it, ironically, I knew I was going to do a voiceover. So at some points I forgot that I was going to do a voiceover and I would talk, but I mentioned, I'm like, this would be really cute if it had zigzag, which I do go back. That's not on camera or on like video. I didn't record that portion, but I do go back, and I added, a zigzag down the center, which kind of keeps everything even more secure. And oh my god, did that just add like the little bit of like touch that it needed, I guess. But it's really cute. Like I love the colors, the muted greens, beiges, and like purples. And then this is perfect for like a belly band. I used it, I actually already used them. I made it today and I'm doing the voiceover today, and I used some of it for my gratitude journal for November, and I used it to make a belly band, and then I used a piece to put it at the bottom to sort of collage. You can use it as clusters, so you can cut little pieces and make clusters. For the belly band, I layered some stickers on top, put a little quote in the middle, and it came out really cute. Like I said, you can make clusters. The only thing I suggest, if you are going to zigzag it, before I cut it, I put a little bit of glue on the top and on the bottom so that it doesn't unravel, because then it will. And that keeps the thread glued to that piece of paper, and then when you go to cut it, it's not going to come undone. But this is definitely, actually, this is my favorite for sure, of all the little projects that I made with these Daphnes Diary images and pages. you can see, it came out so cute. I love it. I love it. Like, there's no other words other than I love it. And as you can see, the back looks so messy. It doesn't matter. Like, it's you're not gonna see it. But as you can see, here are my little projects. I did all these envelopes, these tags, my tickets, and my fussy cuts here. Took them about an hour 20 minutes, but I have all this stuff to work with now. All these beautiful envelopes, these tickets, the snippet roll. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. Thanks for watching.